pas coucher.
My name is Jessica UHDF. I'm a fourth year medical student at Sanford School of Medicine. The reason I got into medicine in the first place was because it was a very obvious way to help people. Everyone has disease, everyone gets sick at some point, and it's a great way to serve. I think my biggest surprises in doing the clinics in Haiti was the level of sickness that we saw in clinics and the difficulty that I had in clinics. And when I say difficulty, I mean the challenging aspects of what we did. We were down there with less testing, less medication than what I'm used to, and I felt like I was almost handicapped as a physician because I couldn't do what I'm used to being able to do and what I would do if I were back home, and that was upsetting to me. So seeing sick patients and not being able to do anything, I think impacted me a lot and was difficult for me. That was something that I didn't really expect coming in. When we were in Haiti, we each had our own interpreter, and that was really it was difficult and one of the biggest joys of the trip, I'd say, for many of us. It was difficult in the sense that we had to work through them and were very dependent on them for the information we were getting from the patients, for their history, for any information that we wanted from the patient, we needed them. That interpreter can also be a cultural broker, so they're almost a broker between you and your patients for the language, but also for the culture, in that if there's any cultural nuances or cultural reasons why a patient might be experiencing what they're experiencing, they can kind of fill you in. So the good interpreters did that as well, which made them very helpful. We were dependent on them, but because of that dependence and that closeness that we developed, it brought a lot of joy. And these guys became our friends, really, which was very fun. The first day, we had just a short walk with our buckets to the first clinic site. So we were walking on a main road that was paved. It was kind of a regular road, and we saw motorbikes passing us. And then we curved off into more of the tent city area, which was completely stricken with poverty. We were seeing the poverty for the first time. And I had been in Central America before, so I'd seen people that lived differently than we did. I was expecting poverty, but I think the level of it and the level of the chaos and the level of the disease and disarray that I saw were more than I anticipated coming in.
At Sharpie around the outside, come back early tomorrow, give her stuff in.
The teamwork that became part of the trip very early on was probably the most incredible part of the trip. The women that went down there with me, the other medical students, are amazing women. And we had a chemistry that was evident right away. We got along well, we consulted each other well as colleagues, and that experience itself was incredible and will probably change how I practice medicine in the future, just because I learned what it feels like more to bounce my ideas off of somebody, get their feedback, and how beneficial that is. We would just grab each other and say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think this is? What are your first thoughts with this? How would you treat this? And what that did for us as students is give us more and more confidence. We had one day where we weren't able to do that. We were all in separate rooms. Just the clinic was set up differently, so we weren't all in one big room. We were in separate rooms, and so we couldn't do that. And all of us had a terrible day that day because we were on our own. We weren't as confident with what we were doing, but we were forced to make decisions on our own, which we do need to learn. We need to learn how to do that. But when you're first starting, it's so valuable to be able to run it by someone else. So every day we would get together as a group and talk about what had been the kind of the high emotional point of the day and the low emotional point of the day, which each of us had them every day. It was not hard for any of us to come up with that. And that experience was so valuable because it kind of helped us to unpack the experience as we were going through it. We would gather together, and sometimes did it in beautiful settings. One time we did it on the beach, and we would just get to talk and get to debrief some of these things that were very impactful and that were some of them very shocking, and got to debrief them verbally and kind of process through them verbally. which was really nice. For me, it was nice because I experienced a lot of emotion in clinics when I was down there. The patients really impacted me. Patients were more ill and just impacted me emotionally more than I had anticipated. So to be able to have that time to say, gosh, I really felt helpless at this point, or I felt frustrated at this point. To be able to bounce that off my friends and I'll call them colleagues, to be able to say that out loud and have them say back to me, you know what, I felt that way too. Or, Jess, you're not alone in this. We're all feeling that way. It was huge. Just very, very helpful in keeping me going, and I think keeping us all kind of emotionally healthy, because it's a lot to see, it's a lot to experience in 10 days or whatever we were down there for. I picked the word compassion as kind of a defining word for this trip for me because of my experience in the clinics with compassion. I saw patients that were sicker with less access to care than I've ever seen in the States, and that broke my heart. I felt deeply moved by these people and a deep need to help them, and a deep sense of compassion on them. So it hadn't, I haven't felt that way much in the States, and being out of my normal environment, being out of my normal comfort zone, and seeing illness and really some tragedy outside of my comfort zone, I think forced that out of me somehow, and it was really good to feel that again, because that's some of why I went into medicine in the first place.
That we did not miss a symptom like urinary infection.
But as we get trained more and more, I think often doctors lose that more and more. But being in a place like this, I think, brings it back to us, because it's us and the patient, and it's a patient in a lot of need. It's a patient who usually wouldn't see a physician, and we get to help. It's just raw helping, and it brings out that compassion that many of us lose often.